All right, everybody. This is Cali Cat Tap Touch, and I got Ryan here. He is the brewer, and I believe he is the owner of Touchstone Brewing Company, which is centrally located in Sacramento Pipeworks. I believe that is. He is also a lifelong climber that turned a passion of home brewery into a actual brewery. So we're going to be talking about him. So why don't you tell us your story?
Sure. Um, I started out as a home brewer a whole lot of years ago. I don't even recall how many now, in an apartment in San Francisco. Started enjoying that through many moves and much of my life, and got an opportunity to take my love of brewing professionally. And I was hired by Strike Brewing Company in San Jose. They were a brand new startup that was actually having their beer made at another facility. And that kind of gave me some experience of learning how to get a beer out to market. And then, eventually we were rooted well enough that we were able to raise money to build our own brewery. And that also was a great experience, learning to physically build a brewery as well. I worked there for quite some time, and about just shy of 10 years ago, I moved to Sacramento to start this project for Touchstone Brewing Company. We're actually part of Touchstone Climbing, which is a rock climbing company that owns now 17 gyms throughout California. They're full fitness centers, but predominantly rock climbing focused. This is the only brewery, the only restaurant, and it's sort of just a fun side project that they were able to fund, um, for me to help build, design, run all the things.
Wow, it sounds like you got a lot going on. So I did a little history. You have a 7 barrel system that
That's
you
right.
can brew. What 128 barrels or something like that? Or am I a
So
little off on that one?
Well, yeah, we try to crank out as much as we possibly can. Most of our beers we're actually brewing 8 to 9 barrels, squeezing out the max capacity of the 7 barrel system. But I have 5 primary fermenters and 2 horizontal lagering tanks. And so, ales, rough, give or take 2 weeks to ferment, lagers closer to 5 or 6. So it's a little imprecise with how much we're going to physically put out. But we try to crank everything. Everything's full at any given time, it seems like. So.
Wow. Okay, so let's start with the name. Why Touchstone? What does it represent for your brewery and your brand?
So the parent company is Touchstone Climbing, and we pulled the name directly from that. Touchstone has unique names for all of its gyms, but the parent company, Touchstone Climbing, we decided to just pull the name with that to keep the branding consistent across the board. Um, and we named our restaurant Pint Works, which is a little bit of a play on the gym that we share a property with, which is called Pipe Works.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what inspired the creation of Touchstone Brewery? Was there a specific moment or motivation that kicked things off?
Sort of. I was actually I had a relationship with the gym manager of the San Jose location of the climbing gym. I would bring beer from Strike over and help with the events they were doing there. They were only a couple miles away, so they would do some. Hey, everybody does a certain amount of rock climbs, then rides their bike over to this brewery, and then we share a pint and hang out. And I was a climber as well. I guess I still am when I have time. Um, but I became friends with that manager and a couple other folks in the Touchstone company. And it was actually, we were on a rock climbing trip in Bishop, California, on the Eastern Sierra, just climbing outside and sitting around a campfire, drinking my beers and kind of BSing with each other. And they mentioned that Touchstone has this Sacramento property that they wanted to try to do something fun with. And my knee jerk reaction was like, oh, you should just build a brewery there. That'd be super fun. Imagine having a brewery in a tap room, attached to one of your climbing gyms. That'd be what an awesome space. And then it sort of blossomed from there. It was just a few months later, I was meeting with the ownership of the climbing company and upper management. They asked me to kind of piece together a proposal, and I did, and they said yes. And we sort of just got the ball rolling on this awesome community space brewery. And
Sounds like you just dove right on in. I had this idea. You had support, which is pretty cool. So tell us about your flagship beers. What are the crowd favorites, and what are the stories behind them?
so, you know, the crowd favorite here is probably the crowd favorite everywhere. It's the House Hazy IPA. We do one that's called Bear Hug. It's a very very good seller. But I think one thing that sets us apart a little bit is we end up brewing a lot of lagers. I've always had an affinity toward full flavor lighter beers, and our customers have responded well to that. So I added the two lagering tanks, and they're full any given time. And we try really hard to have a flavor for everyone. You know, with a 7 barrel batch size and small system, it allows us to be a little more limber. And we sell all of our beer right here on site. We don't distribute, so I don't have to keep up with a grocery store chain or anything like that. So we can keep a few staples. Most of them have been dictated by the customers, and then we can be creative and have fun with other stuff.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So the beer that you're drinking right now, that's one of your flagship beers, correct?
Yeah, this is Layback Lager. This is a beer I've always wanted to brew commercially, and just haven't really had the space for it until I had my own place. And it was the second batch we ever put out on this brew system, and I think we've done 16 or 17 runs of it at this point. It's a nice
Wow.
light, it's a little bit of corn, not quite as much as a Mexican lager, but a little
Hmm.
hint of malty sweetness to it, and a very nice, well-rounded, full-bodied lager.
So yeah, so I know you just gave us a quick description of it. What's the aroma on it? What's popping? You say flavor.
You
What's
get
what's
you get a
popping out of that one?
little hint of corn. It's a very lightly hopped beer. It's supposed to be a social light, not a super light beer, but an easy drinking, full bodied
Hmm.
lager.
Okay, so how did you decide on the names, flavors, and styles of your seasonal or your specialty beers?
A lot of times it's sort of what I feel like doing. I have a lot of creative flexibility here, which is really fun. Some things kind of roll with the season. I don't sell a lot of 10+% stouts when it's 100 degrees out here. So, we
I know
dictate
you're in
that a little
Sacramento.
bit. But I get a chance to play with a lot of things. And,
Hmm.
for instance, when my allergies start to really bother me, I release a really nice, dry, very floral West Coast IPA. It
Hmm.
only comes once a year, and it's sort of a nod to allergy season that beats us all up because it's a fantastic, delicious beer. It's called Super Bloom, so it fits with the blooming of the flowers and
Yeah, the blooming.
the the allergy stuff. So it's a good thing to not really be bound by anything specifically. I can do what I want. And
Wow.
as for the names, I would say a high percentage of our beer names come from the climbing world, and some of
Hmm.
them are just whatever felt funny or felt right in the moment. So
Yeah. So being a part of the climbing and adventure community, how does that influence your brand, your culture, and your tap room vibe?
Um, one thing I've learned here is us compared to many other breweries is we sell a lot more of our more modest alcohol beers. We have a lot of fitness-based customers who aren't looking to just get wasted. We don't.
Hmm.
I've still never brewed a triple IPA on this system, and double IPAs only a handful of times. That 6.5 to under 7% IPA is our sweet spot, and we sell a ton of lighter lagers, and that dictates a lot of what we produce. Is those are the ones that move the fastest, and I think we've created a space here that's more of a continuation of a social aspect of our lives, which a lot of folks are into rock climbing and hanging out and chatting with their friends between climbs and so on and so forth. That's a very social and physical activity, and I think this space has become a continuation of that. So folks are looking to you know keep themselves under control a little bit, but enjoy some delicious beers and now some food.
So I would safely say that's like considered the athletic zone for brewers at athletic zone. So there's one question that's popping up out of my head, and that is the artwork of your cans. Who is the artist behind that, and how did you
So
come up with the design?
we have a couple of artists. Probably the main artist is the marketing director for the rock climbing company.
Mm-hmm.
She does all lots of different things for this climbing company, and now she's working on some beer labels for us. We have another graphic designer in our company that has recently started working for her, and he's done a bunch of labels now too. And a few of our labels were even done by just some of our gym managers that happen to be good at graphic design. And then that marketing director Heather will take their design and make it fit our branding and get all the details worked out so it fits the style of what all of our cans look like. So,
Wow.
but for
Um,
the direction on the art on those, sometimes I have a name, sometimes I don't. Sometimes we shoot off the hip a little bit, and I have a couple of designs that I don't have beers or names for yet that are just kind of sitting around or that didn't work out for previous beers.
mhm.
But for the most part, I try to have a name for the beer before I brew it. That definitely has a couple of gaps in my history, though. But and then I'll give them a loose direction. But they're such great artists; it's pretty rare that we even have to do any editing after that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, being a part of the climbing and adventure community, how does that influence your brand culture or your tap room vibe? How does that influence the vibe?
Man, you see a lot of folks in here with their climbing packs on and their shoes hanging on the back of the chair. We are certainly seeing a lot of people from outside the climbing community in our tap room and our restaurant now. But for a while there, that's the bulk of our customer base, and you do see quite a lot of folks coming through, and they're talking about the climbs they did in the gym or their aspirations for climbs outside, what their plans are. We see folks trading gear here. We do even do some gear swaps every couple of times a year, and it's fun to. It's fun to see a good diverse group of folks here now too. For a long time you see mostly just rock climbers. There'd still be chalk on their pants and their backpack with their shoes hanging off of it and such. But we're seeing people from all walks of life now.
Yeah, that might be a cool design. Backpack with the gears hanging from it, right? And is
Yep,
it call it gear swap?
there
It
you
might
go.
be a full hazy or a lager or something like that, right? What have been some of the biggest challenges Touchstone Brewing has faced, and how do you conquer them?
Probably, I mean, the biggest challenge is the physical construction of the space. We are in a what used to be a shed. We had to trench the whole parking lot, bring all new utilities into the building. Um, and it was a giant learning process. There were no bathrooms, there was no bar, there was no not even running water in these buildings. So we had to do all of that from the ground up, which was a bit out of my expertise.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of help on it, but we did most of this construction ourselves. Um, so I would imagine that's the biggest challenge was physically building the place.
Just building it at any point where you're just going to say, screw it, I just give up? Or your dreams just like, no, I'm in this, I'm going to stick in here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to
I
do whatever
had
it takes.
I had some moments where I wanted to. Um, I definitely wasn't in any place where I wanted to walk away and say no, I'm not going to finish this. But I got pretty heated with a couple of inspectors here and there
Mm-hmm.
over some things that I thought were a little bit bullshit. That building inspectors are generally good human beings; they're normal people just like you and I. But when you have a disagreement and you're confident that you're right and they're confident that they're right, it can get a little difficult to resolve in without swearing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand. I understand. Okay, so with the craft beer market, it's very competitive right now. So how do you stay fresh, relevant, and connected to your community?
I mean, we're always doing a lot of events. We're active on social media. We try to keep the space fresh and active. With again with the smaller brew system, all of our beers are fresh. Nothing's sitting around for too long to where someone's going to come in and have a stale beer experience. We don't want that, and we don't get that. Um, but we also built a space to sort of keep our focus central here. We only sell beer on this property, with exception of a couple wholesale accounts that are basically our friends of mine. I don't go out and sell beer. I don't actively push our beer in the marketplace. It is just here in a glass or cans to go.
Okay, so what's one lesson you learned through building this brewery that you wish you knew from the start?
Hmm. Um, I don't have a good answer for that. A clever one. I think that this type of career and this type of management of a business, you're constantly learning at all times. It's complex, and ever evolving. So it's there. I don't know that there's really just one thing that I can point to that I wish I knew ahead of time. Um, Other than construction takes time, planning takes time, the physical building department, all that stuff. But nothing. I mean, I had experience with at least the physical construction of a brewery, and I had experience brewing prior to coming here. So nothing in those veins, but a lot of the planning around it.
Yeah, yeah. But you came from a corporate world too, right?
Yeah, I mean, not immediately adjacent to this. I left the corporate world for beer quite a long time before I came here.
Okay.
Just
All right.
cut off the
So
tie and throw it away and move on.
yeah, move on. So my success is here. People like my beer, and I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna sell it, right? So,
Exactly.
can you describe your brewing philosophy? Do you lean towards tradition, experimentation, or something in between?
Probably something in between. I mean, we don't really follow a textbook over here. I brew what I feel like when I feel like brewing it. But we don't. I wouldn't say any of our beers are particularly crazy exotic or anything like that. We're not doing any controlled infected sours. It's all clean beers. Our sours are kettle sour or lactic producing yeast sours. So, um, I would say there's nothing too crazy out of the ordinary here, but we are able to focus on having a diverse style of beers. We have, styles that you don't really see too often anymore. You don't really see alt beers and amber ales. You don't see
Oh, yeah,
a lot of
yeah. I agree
smoke
with the alt.
smoked lager we have on tap right now. So we we brew what feels right, I guess, most of the time.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask a question. Smoke lager. What do you consider the smoke lager? Because I'm starting to see those pop up. People on the internet, social media, but they have like this little thing and they light it up and
Uh,
smoking up their beers and drinking it. Says, "Well, it tastes delicious."
yeah, I mean, mine's closer to a traditional Rauch beer. It's an old German style that uses a smoked malt. I went a little bit subdued on the smoked malt because I wanted a hint of smoke. I didn't want it to taste like an ashtray or overly astringent from the smoked malt. So it's a beechwood smoked malt that adds like almost a little bit of a sweet smokiness to it,
Hmm.
and it's not overbearing at all. Sort of get a little hint of smoked wood on the exhale, but it's a medium bodied lager otherwise.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What role has the local community played in your growth and identity of your brewery?
I mean, Sacramento has a strong craft beer community, even though we're seeing some closures of larger breweries around us. And um, I think Sacramento as a whole still has a pretty strong arm in helping craft breweries flourish. Once we opened up our restaurant, that brought in a lot of new folks from outside the climbing community or outside just the neighborhood. So that definitely helps out a lot having offerings that aren't just a food truck or rotating snacks or whatever it may be. So, um, but we're also we're in a popular area. A lot of people come through this gym and stick around and have a beer afterwards.
Stick out to have a beer. So what do people for their first time going? What do people hope that they feel? What's their takeaway after visiting?
I hope they come in and see that there is a style or a flavor of beer for just about anyone here. And for those that really strictly don't want beer, we do carry some local cider in cans
Mm-hmm.
and some local wine as well. But we have a fantastic restaurant. Nothing too overly greasy or unhealthy. It's not super healthy. It is a brewery restaurant, but um, we have plenty of vegan and vegetarian options. Plenty of
Mm-hmm.
stuff for the meat eaters as well, and it's sort of a something for everyone in all corners of this brewery and restaurant.
Okay. Um, what is your dream collaboration with any
Hmm.
brewery or brand in the world? What would it be and why?
Probably Freem up in Hood River. Those guys make some of the best beer I've ever had. I think every time I've been there, their beer has been just fantastic. I'm always there or I have always been there on weekends, so
Hmm.
I don't know any of the folks that run the shop there, but their beers are of the best I think out there.
So you go
And I,
up there, you love the beer, you taste it, and then you go home and you try to brew it based
no,
on the tasting.
no, some like one of the best beers they make is one of their sours. So it's this Cherry Creek and Hood Rivers in cherry territory, I guess. But no, I still prefer to do my own thing. But I think they have a lot of respectable awards and folks know who they are. I think they make some great beer. So
Okay. So where do you see Touchstone Brewing in 5 years? Any new ventures, expansions, or dream projects?
yeah, we have some aspirations to throw some tap rooms in some other places. I don't envision building another brewery because we have plenty of room to expand this one. But I'd like to have, for instance, I'd love to have a tap room in the Bay Area, maybe a couple of them. We have a bunch of gyms there. Our company is only in California,
Hmm.
so I would say limit to that. Um, but sure, I don't know that I have the mental capacity to have another restaurant. That doesn't mean it's not possible, but it's a lot. Obviously, I'd hire folks that are better at this than me. But I think a couple more tap rooms would be really fun, and keep it as similar to this sort of a social avenue, a community space for folks to hang out and continue their recreation.
Yeah, I say come on to the Bay, man. You had to come to the Bay.
I have something.
We'll welcome you in.
I have something early in the works there.
All right, you
Not
got to come here.
nothing I can mention because it's pretty
I
far from
got you.
official, but
Yeah, I know.
I have a
I don't
space.
want to jinx you at all, but I'd love to have you down here. So, um, when people look back on legacy of Touchstone Brewery, what do you hope that they remember the most?
I hope it's not a memory. I hope they're here just active and we're still around forever, obviously. But, um, we have a lot of customers that still remember the days of us opening up our rollout door and selling cans to go. It's all we had was the brewery, just a building with beer. And we were selling cans to go right out of the roll up 2 days a week. And then eventually we rolled a little kegerator in there and we were selling pints in plastic cups. And slowly but surely, we built all the tables and added the draft system inside here with 20 taps. And I think a lot of folks appreciate and remember where we started, which was truly at the ground level in the midst of COVID. What a wild time to open up a business, but we did it and we pushed through. And um, it's funny to see how many people we see every day as opposed to back then.
Yeah. So, what legacy would you like to leave behind?
Oh, hopefully I'm still alive in 15 years or whatever
You're going to be
this
alive.
conversation is. I just, I've always wanted to have a brewery that I could focus on creativity and, to some extent brew what people want, but also brew what the brewer wants to brew. And I think that's pretty important in our world. It's it's one thing to grow a giant business and get into all the grocery stores and the Costco's and the Bevmos and all that fun stuff, but in my personal experience, that made the gig less fun. And having a small, intimate space here where we could focus on being part of our community and having a space for our community, um, it keeps it more of a fun career as opposed to
A
just
job?
yeah, and just grinding out the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, I know. I get it. Well, a lot of talk shows that I've been doing, and the brewers are saying, you know, they want to keep it fun. Just like you're saying, they want to keep it where they want to brew, and then people come. They don't want to like brew, 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 brew to turn it into a like a job. It started as a fun. It's a hobby and it's an adventure, and they want people to come and taste
Yeah.
their stuff. So yeah. So what is your address, and how would somebody like myself come, and what are your hours to
We're
visit and have some beers?
we're 116 North 16th Street in Sacramento. That's 16th and A in the River District, sort of the north edge of Midtown. We're we are still closed on Mondays, so we are open Tuesday through Friday at 4 p.m. Until 10 p.m. Fridays we keep the bar open an extra hour, but the kitchen still closes at 10. And then Saturdays 1 to 8, and we just launched brunch on Sundays. This is 11 to 2, with the bar staying open till 4.
Wow, cool. So this is Cali Cat Tap Talks. I'd like to sign off and thank Ryan for being on my new podcast.
Yeah, thanks
So,
for having me. I appreciate it.
no worries. Thank you.